discuss how a swap mechanism works. Now, let's say that we pass into it a current node and we pass it the next node. And these two, imagine that there's a list, right? There's a whole bunch of connections leading to my current. So I have previous items and so on. And then immediately next to it is my next. And there's a whole sequence of other list items. So these two are situated in a list. And we can't assume that they're at the beginning or at the end. We're going to just assume, for the sake of our coding thinking, that they're somewhere in the middle of a list, a long list. So we need to swap their positions. So, well, there are a couple of conditions. The first obvious condition is what happens if that current item is actually the first item. So I'm going to leave that to one side and I'm going to focus only on imagining, so over here is the head, there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and the tail is all the way over here. So we're somewhere in between and we need to swap them. So we have some real challenges. We need to get hold of, the first thing we need to do is get hold of, if that's the current and that's the next, the first coding challenge you really have is how to get hold of the previous one. Because the direction of travel with these node links, you can always get the next link, get the next link, get the next. You can travel in this direction. So you have to work out what mechanism you're going to use to get the previous item. That's one really critical thing. So you'll need some kind of method to get that hold of that value. The other thing you're going to also have to get hold of to make this work is the node immediately after the next. I'm going to just call it the next, right? Because these two sort of anchor the list. The list continues on either side of those. It's these two connections between them, the current and the next, that have to be swapped around. So I need some code to get hold of the previous, and the easiest way to get hold of the next is just ask this next for its next one, right? And that will give you that one. So now you've got two anchors either side. You know that they're connected like this, right? So how do you do it? Well, one of the first things to do is this current is currently pointing to this one here. You need to shift that. I'm going to use a different color if I can. You need to shift that next item. You need to break it from there and you need to get it to point to that one as if it was next to it. That's the first thing that you'll have to do. You would then have to get this next one, which is currently pointing to the next, to actually point to the current. That would actually have to point there to there. And then finally, so that would be one thing you'd have to do. That's the second step. And the third step would be this previous one, which points to the current, would actually have to point to the next. So those are the three reconfigured links between the nodes, and then you have swapped it. Now that's a really, really big challenge, and the only way of coding this, sensible way, is to attempt to write it out, put a breakpoint into your code, and watch it work. And that's the challenge for you.